on to our discussion on Linux and open source, driving new innovation and value on your mainframe. We have a superb panel of experts today on the topic of Linux and open source on System Z with us, and they are first Ashley George, who is VP of Operating System Support for ZVM Linux at Brown Brothers Harriman, and we also have Brian Foley, who is Program Director for IBM's Z System Platform Strategy and also manager of their Linux One line of business. Michael Miller is with us. He is VP of Global Alliance at open source leader SUSE. And finally, Andrew Chapman, VP of Product Management at CA Technologies. Andrew, hi.
Hi, great to be here.
Glad you're here. So, Andrew, let's just get started right away with some context. Why is a panel discussion about Linux on the mainframe a worthwhile investment of our attendees' time today?
Sure, good, great question. I think it starts with awareness. I think many people, certainly outside of the mainframe community, don't even know you can run Linux on the mainframe. So any opportunity we have just to get the word out there that the mainframe isn't just about conventional ZOS sort of batch and transactional workloads, but that it actually is not just a valid platform for sort of mainframe Linux, but actually a valid platform for any distributed Linux workload. Mm-hmm. And Linux is, I mean, without doubt, it's really the only operating system that's growing at any kind of pace. It's growing at something like 12% per year, Windows at 6%. Everything else is really, sort of starting to drop. And so we see Linux is growing very highly. Linux on the mainframe, by MIPS, is about a 45% CAGR over the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. So not only is Linux growing, but Linux on the mainframe is growing. We really need to get that word out there, and as a community, do everything we can to support those deployments.
We've been running Linux on Z since 2003, so not quite 200 years, 13. But basically, what drove us there was we were at the point where we were running out of space in our data center. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of distributed servers taking up costly real estate. Mm-hmm. And we had new workload coming in, which was great. We had a Java application that had a back-end Oracle database. And when we were looking at our investments, we collaborated with IBM, in fact, to leverage the existing Z investment, the Z footprint. So basically, by turning on Linux engines, IFLs, as they call them, onto the existing footprint without adding any space to the data center, we're able to host Java applications, the back-end databases, and consolidate at the same time.
What we do see in our clients is growth, as Andrew mentioned, in all aspects. It's growth in our existing clients and their organic workloads. It's growth in our ZOS customers that are choosing to deploy new Linux workloads onto the platform, but it's also new customers coming to the platform. And what they're really looking for is, they're leveraging Linux, they're leveraging open source more and more, be it businesses like financial services that Ashley's in, or if it's government or other businesses. So we see them leveraging the strengths of that, the flexibility, the agility. But what they're really looking for is the robustness of the platform, right? It's the availability, the scalability, the security, the reliability of an enterprise system. And that's what they're really turning to IBM systems for, be it Z or Power. They're really looking to build up their mission-critical workloads.
Open source as a model has become almost a de facto standard for large-scale innovation, particularly in terms of infrastructure, things like operating system, infrastructure as a service. So that's a great match with the mainframe platform. Also, it brings a flexibility and a choice that's really powerful. So the way I like to phrase it is it brings freedom without fragmentation. It brings open standards without lock-in.
Well, when it comes to open source, what we look at is, now that we've been running for this for 13 years on the platform, the type of applications like WebSphere, Java, Oracle, DB2LUW, this has now been categorized as the traditional workload. When you look at open source opportunities and some of the things we'll be talking about today, we really see it as an enablement for our developers, for our business, to look at those non-traditional workloads and have a place on Linux on Z to get, again, that enterprise-grade reliability, availability, scalability, but then open up the platform to basically workloads you wouldn't even dream of, even years ago. Again, we're a heterogeneous environment, right? We leverage the best of the technology to ultimately deliver to our clients. So when we look at solutions, whether it be enterprise monitoring, as you mentioned, when we look at reporting, we look at solutions that, again, can, whether the system's on a mainframe, the system's on an Intel server, Solaris, whatever it may be, if it's truly an enterprise solution, we want to be able to deploy that across the shop. So we've had, a number of challenges there in terms of making sure that the solutions that we want to leverage, work on all platforms, and obviously in the context of today, specifically Linux on Z. I personally have knocked on the door of all three of these companies, and at various stages. Again, we've been doing this since 2003, so a number of solutions that we're looking to bring onto the platform. When we call up and say, is it supported along Linux on Z, we sometimes get the answer, believe it or not, folks, that it's not there yet. And some of the follow-up question is, well, why not? Linux on Z is an enterprise platform. How come you're not there yet? And the answer we get is, maybe there's not a market demand yet. Well, simple response on behalf of my colleagues at Brown Brothers. I'm the market, and I'm demanding it.
But what we see here is just a game changer, because when you look at all the components that are available as open source that are now or have now been ported to Z, many of those things have now gone away. I was actually at a ZVM executive council meeting just 2 weeks ago, and this is ZVM, and they had a panel discussion talking about Docker and containerization. So they had customers and educational institutions up on stage talking about containerization on Linux on Z. This is no longer some fictitious thing. This is a real thing now. So this was the #1 blocking issue for customers who couldn't go all in on Z, that this was just stopping them moving generic workloads to Z. So this is why we're so excited. I mean, this is a huge game changer for those customers.
Open Mainframe project, which we just formed right about a month ago. We've been doing open source on the mainframe for years. You've been running Linux on the mainframe since 2003, right? So why OMP now? Well, the OMP brings together a collaborative community where we've brought together vendors, industry-leading vendors, enterprises, academic institutions that have all been leveraging open source, but brought us all together into a single community. And in that community, and this community model is really important, here together we can innovate faster, we can produce more real-world innovation, and we can get it into the hands of real IT organizations with better results.
One other thing to consider, if you look at the people who've joined the OMP, the Open Mainframe Project, a lot of educational institutions as well, because one of the things we recognize that in order for the mainframe to continue the growth that it has, we need to fill that skills gap. We need to make sure that we have people joining the workforce who understand the concepts of the mainframe, even if it's Linux on the mainframe. Right. And you'll notice, just looking at the chart as to who's joined, a lot of great educational institutions are members as well.
Any initiative that's going to encourage collaboration among the names that you see there, both from the solution providers to the consumers like myself, is great, because it's only going to build up that ecosystem that we need in order to truly be an enterprise platform. That means regardless of whether we like it or not, we have to be able to support these open source solutions that have matured and are making their way into the enterprise, just like Linux did initially. So the idea is, we in Brown Brothers, again, we embrace technology, we take mature technology and leverage it to the ability of our clients to benefit from. But the idea is to make sure that it is, again, mature, it's stable, and to work with partners to work out the kinks, to say. It's not, to me, open source, again, is not just being able to take some solution and run it on a platform. It's being able to build an ecosystem, like, say, bringing MongoDB on or other things, bringing that technology to a secure platform, having tools, having choice of tools, what to use to monitor it, to debug it. And if the Open Mainframe Project encourages that collaboration, we're all for it.
CA is front and center here with everybody else around the table. We're founding members of the OMP. We have been focusing for the last, we've kind of doubled down over the last 2 or 3 years, getting our enterprise products and our mainframe products aligned. The work that we've seen, or the announcements we've seen just in the last few months, have really pulled this together for us. Certainly for me personally, this was the last thing that we were waiting for. And all the announcements around elastic pricing, the cloud, et cetera, for Linux One has really pulled all this together. Yeah. I think we're going to see some significant growth in this market. So very interesting, very exciting.